I remember Maplewood, Oregon, back in the 90s. It was a place where nothing much happened, a town full of quiet streets and towering Douglas firs, but for me it was a world of endless possibilities, especially when I was sitting in front of my clunky personal computer. My name is Ashley Peterson, and when I was 16, my life revolved around the glow of a cathode ray tube and the click of a mouse. My best friend Sarah was right there with me. We weren't just into games, we were obsessed. We spent every last penny from our part-time jobs at the local diner collecting rare computer games. Not the big, flashy console games everyone else played, but the niche, intricate personal computer games that came on dozens of floppy disks with thick manuals and secret codes. These games were our treasures, our escape, our shared passion. They were more than just plastic and code. They were entire universes we built and explored together, a bond between us that felt unbreakable. We'd spend hours after school, huddled in my bedroom, taking turns navigating fantasy worlds or strategizing in complex simulations. It was our secret garden, a place no one else really understood. Then Kevin entered our world. He wasn't a close friend, more of an acquaintance from school, a guy who always seemed to be lurking on the fringes of our friend group. He heard about our game collection, probably through some innocent bragging on our part, and slowly wormed his way into our trust. He started complimenting our setup, asking to borrow a game or two, always promising to return them quickly and carefully. Sarah and I, being the open and trusting souls we were, eventually lent him some of our most prized possessions, rare titles that were almost impossible to find anymore. We figured he's a fellow gamer, he'll understand. We were wrong. A few weeks went by and Kevin finally returned a stack of what he claimed were our games, but when I went to play them, my heart sank. The discs were either completely unreadable, scratched beyond repair, or just blank, worthless copies. My rare strategy game, Stars of Destiny, was now a coaster. My beloved adventure title, Mystic Isles, was a jumbled mess of static. When I confronted him, he just shrugged, a smirk playing on his lips. Oh, those. Yeah, they were pretty lame, so I tried to fix them. Guess I broke them for good. You shouldn't get so attached to silly games anyway, Ashley. His words, coated in a sugary mock sympathy, felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just the loss of the games, which were irreplaceable. It was the betrayal, the disrespect for something I held so dear, and the mocking of my passion. He had invaded our sanctuary and left it in ruins. My world, once vibrant with digital adventures, now felt cold and empty, tainted by his deceit. Sarah and I were furious. We tried to confront Kevin again, this time with more anger than politeness. He simply laughed in our faces, telling us we were being childish. We even talked to our parents, trying to explain the value of these games and the depth of his betrayal, but they just saw a few broken computer disks, not the shattered trust or the violation of our friendship. Without concrete proof, they couldn't do anything. Kevin continued to spread rumors at school, twisting the story, making it seem like we were overreacting about some old floppy disks. He'd make snide comments in the hallways, loud enough for everyone to hear, about how pathetic it was to cry over games that were probably broken anyway. Each time, a wave of humiliation washed over me. I felt powerless, silly, and incredibly naive. The joy I once felt for gaming started to fade, replaced by a bitter emptiness. We tried searching local computer stores for replacements, but the rarity of those specific titles meant we were out of luck. The cost, even if we found them, was astronomical for two teenagers. Our shared passion, once a source of comfort, now felt like a wound that wouldn't heal. One afternoon, during a school assembly, Kevin's voice echoed across the auditorium, mimicking my distress about the games, making a joke out of it. The snickers that followed felt like a physical assault. That day I went home and cried, feeling utterly defeated. All the progress I had made in coming to terms with the loss, all the efforts to move past his cruelty, dissolved in that moment. It felt like all was lost, that he had won, and my love for gaming would forever be overshadowed by his cruel mockery. Sarah and I sat in silence for a long time, the weight of our shared loss and frustration pressing down on us. The thought of gaming, once so exciting, now just brought a hollow ache, but then something shifted. The bitterness in my stomach began to curdle into a cold, hard resolve. Sarah, seeing my despair, grabbed my hand. "He can't get away with this, Ash," she said, her eyes burning with a similar fire. "He really can't." We spent weeks brainstorming, plotting, and planning. We weren't going to just get even, we were going to turn the tables in a way he would never see coming. Our revenge had to be clever, untraceable, and utterly devastating. We knew Kevin had a new personal computer, a fancy model his dad had recently bought him, and he was always bragging about it. He was also a notorious pirate, always looking for free software and games, especially cracked versions of popular titles. This was our opening. Our plan was simple but required careful execution. We acquired a handful of blank floppy disks, the kind everyone used back then, and then we went to work. We didn't just put a virus on them, that would be too obvious. Instead, we carefully crafted a series of corrupted files, designed to slowly and subtly mess with a computer's operating system, and more importantly, it saved game data. It wasn't an immediate crash. It was a creeping sickness that would make the computer behave erratically, corrupting save files from his favorite games, scrambling documents, and occasionally causing random freezes and restarts. To the untrained eye, it would look like a hardware problem, or perhaps someone else was messing with his computer. We then labeled these disks with tempting titles, like Doom 2 expansion pack unreleased content and Windows 95 beta exclusive features. Knowing his weakness for anything rare and free, our opportunity came during a school library session. Kevin was working on a project, leaving his backpack briefly unattended. With practiced stealth, Sarah slipped the carefully prepared discs into an outer pocket of his bag. We held our breath for days. The waiting was agony, but we knew patience was key. Finally, the first signs of our revenge began to appear. Kevin started complaining in computer class about his personal computer acting up. He grumbled about losing a high score in his favorite game, then about an important school paper mysteriously corrupting. He accused people loudly, blaming anyone he could think of, but his suspicions started to turn inwards toward his own family. We heard through the grapevine that his younger brother, Mark, was getting the brunt of the accusations. Kevin was convinced Mark was messing with his computer. The subtle nature of the corrupted disks meant that the problems appeared random, intermittent, and impossible to pinpoint to a single source. It started small, a file here, a game save there, but it slowly escalated. His computer would freeze in the middle of a gaming session or randomly restart during a crucial moment in a school assignment. His frustration grew, and so did his paranoia. The humiliation began when he failed to turn in a major school project on time because his files were mysteriously corrupted right before the deadline. He tried to explain, but everyone, even the teacher, just thought he was making excuses. His perfect image, built on a facade of being in control, began to crack. The climax arrived a few weeks later. Kevin's personal computer finally gave up the ghost entirely, failing to boot. He was convinced his younger brother Mark had sabotaged it. The arguments at their house became legendary, even reaching our ears. We heard yelling, accusations, and furious denials. Kevin's parents, exasperated by the constant fighting and the ruined computer, grounded both boys and started a full-blown investigation into who was responsible. The family meltdown was spectacular. They tried taking the computer to a repair shop, but the technicians were baffled, finding no obvious hardware fault, just a deeply corrupted system that seemed to have spontaneously imploded. They suggested it could have been a series of bad disks, but Kevin, convinced of his brother's malice, dismissed the idea. Sarah and I watched from a distance, our faces carefully neutral, but inside we were screaming with triumph. Kevin, the arrogant thief who had mocked our passion, was now embroiled in a domestic war, fueled by suspicion and his own technological undoing. His world, which he had used to scorn ours, was crumbling not just with a broken computer, but with the insidious spread of distrust and chaos within his own home. He had no idea it was all because of a few seemingly innocent floppy disks. The aftermath was incredibly satisfying. Kevin became a pariah, not just for his past actions, but for the constant drama he brought with his computer problems and the subsequent family feuds. His attempts to rebuild his game collection were hindered by his perpetually malfunctioning computer, which never truly recovered even after reinstallations. He always suspected someone in his family was still messing with his things, a seed of doubt that festered and grew. Ashley and Sarah felt a profound sense of justice. We hadn't just gotten even. We had shown Kevin that betraying trust has consequences, and we had done it in a way that he couldn't trace back to us directly. My love for gaming, once tainted by his cruelty, was reignited, stronger and more resilient than before. It was a reminder that true passion couldn't be broken by someone else's malice. Sarah and I became even closer, our bond solidified by this shared experience and our successful, elaborate revenge. We learned the power of cleverness, patience, and the satisfying sting of poetic justice. Our secret, a quiet triumph, was ours alone. Years later, long after we had graduated and moved on from Maplewood, I heard an unexpected update about Kevin. Through a mutual acquaintance, I learned that his family never quite recovered from the computer incident. The distrust and suspicion lingered, creating a lasting rift between Kevin and his brother, and even between his parents. The casual sabotage of his games had led to a deep, unresolvable conflict that continued to affect his life years later. It wasn't just a teenage prank. It had sown seeds of doubt that grew into genuine, lasting discord, making his life genuinely more difficult in ways he still couldn't connect to two teenage girls and a few corrupted floppy disks. I smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about an immediate, explosive triumph, but a slow burn, a dish served cold with a side of lasting familial discord. It was a quiet victory that echoed through time, a reminder that some wounds once inflicted can never truly heal, especially when the source remains a mystery.